It's been a few months since I last did one of these, and that's because I rewatched part 11 a few months ago and was reminded how much I don't like it. And then I was reminded how much I don't like this particular midway point in Twin Peaks The Return. I just think, the point when the show just stops. The plot just freezes in its tracks, and the show's not really doing anything. It's just Lynch kind of doing whatever he wants, and narrative momentum be damned. And like in part 11, I don't really even remember that much about it, that's all that interesting. I mean, there's the kind of surreal traffic jam scene where Bobby is arguing with that fat lady who's like screaming at him and who has the sick kid in the seat. And I was like, oh yeah, I vaguely remember this scene. It was kind of creepy when I first saw it, and it's whatever. And there's Dougie and the gangsters, and Jim Belushi going into the desert with the box and stuff. But I still was like, well, so what? I don't like this. I again, like as I've said before, I don't really like it when the show goes to Las Vegas, because then it just feels like a completely different show. Just I'm trying to remember what else about 11 was interesting. It's a forgettable episode. There's Amanda Seyfried and that. But, I don't think the show uses Amanda Seyfried particularly well, and I've always liked her as an actress, although I don't know that she belongs on Twin Peaks, with the type, I don't know, yeah, like, with the type of character she's playing. So, part 11, I will say I do like when Dougie reunites with the homeless lady from the casino, and she's, like, rich now, and she thanks Dougie for helping save her life. I did like that scene, but yeah, okay, part 11, I don't care for it. Part 12 is strange, because I remember when it aired, and like Brad Dukes was on Twitter saying, did anyone else struggle with part 12? I know I do, and I did, but I sort of had forgotten why. And now I have a more complicated reaction to part 12, where it has some great scenes in it, and then it gets awful at the end. So I like Ben Horn's scene, as I always love Richard Beamer, and where Ben Horn finds out that his grandson, or his Richard, I can't remember, is he his grandson? I can't remember, I'm losing track, where he finds out Richard's a murderer, killed a little boy, and so Ben decides, to pay for the medical expenses of a victim of a lady that Richard assaulted. And when Richard Beamer starts talking about, I love that bike that my father got for me, and Ashley Judd is listening to him, I don't remember why he starts telling that story about the bike. I'm not really sure what the significance of it has to do with the problems he's having with his grandson. But because Richard Beamer is such a good actor, the speech, I don't understand the purpose of the speech, but it almost doesn't matter that much, just because it's a nice, moving moment that shows Ben Horn's humanity, and which is something you saw a little bit in the first two seasons. But I think in The Return, Lynch and Frost were definitely trying to make Ben Horn seem like less of a villain, which I do appreciate. I had sort of forgotten, but it was nice to see again when Sarah Palmer's in the market and she has the freak out when she sees the turkey jerky, and what was Grace Zabriskie, that's her name, right? And so it's always good to see her again. And then when Hawk reunites with her at the house, and Hawk says, yeah, and she says, I know why you're here, Hawk, because of the freak out I had at the market. And he's like, I just want to make sure you're okay, Sarah. And it's during great scenes like that when I'm like, okay, this feels like Twin Peaks. This feel like, because there are times when I forget what show I'm watching, but then scenes like that between Hawk and Sarah remind me, yes, it's good to see old characters reuniting again and just having a conversation like that and stuff. One big problem with the episode is that Dougie's almost not in it at all. There's the one brief scene where, his son tries to play catch with him and he doesn't catch the ball, but that's it. So it's sort of sadistic how Lynch at this point in the show, not only is keeping Cooper from coming back, but he has almost no use for Kyle MacLachlan in episode 12. And without Kyle MacLachlan, Twin Peaks really doesn't work for me. So, because you need that main focus, I do think you need Cooper, but if you don't even have MacLachlan, then it's like, oh gosh, what is and I know Fire Walk with Me barely has Cooper in it, but well, okay, that's a whole nother thing that I don't want to get into. But then basically part 12 takes a nosedive in quality when it gets to Audrey's scene, and even like before Audrey's scene, you have Gordon Cole and Albert scenes, and those scenes don't work at all, even though I miss Miguel Ferrer, but I just feel like that's Lynch making Gordon Cole too prominent of a character, and he takes forever to do the scene with the French babe, who's like adoring him, and then she has to leave the room to give him and Albert some privacy, and that scene goes on too long. And so it's like episode 12 is some great scenes and then some mediocre scenes, but then it gets to Audrey's first scene where she's yelling at her husband Charlie, who from the angle he's photographed, it looks like the actor is like a little person, but actually I don't know, maybe it's like the guy actor playing Charlie looks like maybe he could be Danny DeVito's side. I don't know. I remember watching the episode and being for the first time a few years ago and being convinced I was looking at like a dwarf, and then I think I looked up the actor and found that he wasn't. But maybe he's just a shorter actor. It's just interesting the way Peter Deming photographs him from that angle. But basically that scene is just so like. This is Audrey's first appearance. Like, we remember Audrey as being a fun-loving kind of girl who was sad at times, but she wasn't like this, just like negative and aggressive and screaming and swearing and screaming and just the general nastiness of the scene. And I'm like, that's not Audrey at all. She's not like that. Even when Audrey gets angry, she's not like doing what Sherilyn Fenn had to do here, like, and so it's interesting how when you look at Sherilyn Fenn's tweets on Twitter, it's hard to kind of determine how she felt about doing the return, because I felt like she did some tweets where she seemed a little frustrated with it and frustrated with the Audrey's character arc, or maybe she wishes Audrey could have done more. I'm not sure. You can never really tell from Sherilyn Fenn's tone how she feels about the return, or Sabrina Sutherland, or David Lynch. It always seems I never understood. But yeah, like I'm just like, this is not a good way to introduce Audrey into the return. I don't even know what she and Charlie are talking about. Like I literally started tuning out because I'm just like, I do not know who these people are that they're talking about, and these are not familiar names to me, and it's like Lynch is assuming too much from us. Like, we already know stuff before he can introduce these new characters. Oh God, that scene is a disaster. There maybe are people that defend that scene, but I'm just, oh God, I can't stand it. And it goes on forever. Like, I love Audrey, but I hate this, just the way she's used here. And like, what happens after that? I'm trying to remember, just two random women in the Roadhouse who I've never seen before and have no reason to care about. And then it gets to and then like seeing Dr. Jacoby do his whole shove your way out of the shit again. I'm just like, didn't we already see this in the first few episodes? What are we learning about Dr. Jacoby here that we didn't already learn earlier? And like, what's the point of seeing David Patrick Kelly as Jerry running out in the woods? What does that even mean? Like, episode 12 is just frustrating. This whole spot of the series is just definitely one of my least favorite just sections in the series.